This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles, on the Rockstar Radio Network. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd on the Rockstar Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, one of the great things that we're going to be doing throughout this month, as we're in the heart of April, is featuring some of the key players at the Author You Extravaganza. And one of those people is Tom Campbell. Tom has a long pedigree. We'll keep it short. He is basically a print dude, and he is older than Moses. Well, not quite, but Tom knows printing. He is the VP of Sales with King Printing and Audiobooks. He has done several of our books, and I have to tell, Tom does not know this yet, but it was just announced that Author You, creating your author and book platforms, which I'm proud to say King Printing Printed, has just picked up its 5th book award this morning, and for a writing and published category. So if our listeners don't have it yet, for God's sakes, go and get it. You can order it at your favorite bookstore, or you can go with the magic click to Amazon and order it directly off there. I know they have plenty in stock. So, Tom, welcome to Author You, your guide to book publishing.
Judith, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on your continued success and the awards that you've won. I mean, you continue to make it happen for not only the books that you've done, but for so many others. And we all appreciate and the things that you do for people that are out there that are in the business or trying to get into the business or, just need a little bit of help.
And sometimes a kick in the butt, but that's okay. We'll do that. And you know what I should tell all our listeners, one of the things we did when we designed Author You, your guide to building your author and book platforms, was this. On the back cover by the barcode, we had left enough space because we knew in our gut that this was an award winner. And so I was going to go ahead and do some submitting this year, which usually I don't put my energy in that. I'm so busy with my authors that I work with, that we actually left space that if any awards did come in, that when we went back to reprint, we would add the little image logos of those book awards. And at this point, we're probably running out of space. There's one more I have my eye on. I know that we're a finalist for the Forward Book Awards that won't be announced until June at the American Library Association. But that Tom will be, I've been holding back, and I'm going to panting how long I can hold back to go back to reprint on this book, which is music to a printer's ears when someone says reprint, right, Tom?
That's exactly right.
So anyway, we're going to be popping in the images for those gold awards because it gets the gold on that. And part of that, and I need to tell everyone why it's critical, and I wanted Tom to be part of our feature during April as we lead up to the Author You Extravaganza, May 1 to 3 in Denver, is that printing is so critical to how your book comes out. And there are printers, and then there are printers. And Author You is actually in a 4-color book. So I, was a little cautious because we did this on digital, and I was worried, and I shouldn't have been. But the quality of digital printing is so dramatically different today than it was just a few years ago. And although Tom, does all the types of printing, we did this in 4-color throughout. So, Tom, let's just jump in. What's new in printing? What do we need to tell people who are going down the path? What kind of options they should be looking at? What they should be staying away from? What are some of the taboos out there?
Well, I think printing, the technologies of printing have changed so drastically in the last 10 years. And I think, to recall a little bit of history, books for many, many, many years were printed using offset printing methods, using plates and ink, and it was, you had to print a lot to get the cost down. And so, many, many, many people were stuck with, books, inventories of books, and even large publishers today have been stuck with books. And so, then back in the 90s, the digital revolution started to occur, and as you remember, people started printing black and white textbooks on, Xerox machines, Docutext, Kodak machines, and such. And of course, the bookstores and large publishers and everybody else said, "Oh, we will never, have books in inventory or sell books that are digitally printed." Well, they figured out pretty quick that digitally printed books sold, and so that whole piece went away. And so now you have digitally printed books. Many POD companies produce short-run digital printed books. Companies like, CreateSpace and Lightning Source. For the people that really aren't maybe serious or are kind of financially challenged, they just want to put their toe in the water. Where they print 1.5 or 2 books, I think, is the number that they throw out. But today, and really in the last 5 years, the new technology is called digital inkjet. And that is where you now can produce very short-run, 4-color books at very reasonable prices. And it's changed the whole landscape. Anybody that was, printing children's books, they now can do short-run inkjet. And inkjet is termed as offset substitutable. So, for the people who are, let's call them the die-hard offset people, are they going to be happy with the new technology? No, because it's not offset. It's people have a hard time parting with what is called tradition. But at the end of the day, if what you're really doing, and we all know this, a book is a product. It's just, it's like a computer, a tablet. It's something for sale, and you've got to really be in the business. And so when you take a look at your book as, being something other than a manifestation of yourself, and it's a product to be sold, you'll turn to inkjet immediately because it satisfies a couple of needs. One of them being short run, meaning that you can protect yourself against high investments in inventory, and the other one is you can make money at it.
Well, let's talk about the money side of it. So we all know, when I would go out and get offset printing bids, you've seen mine come in before, mm-hmm. and I would ask for 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 bad. And for our listeners, because you have said, Tom, many, 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 many times when we have hung out together, that you have said that the average gulp sales of most of these self-published authors is 100 frickin' books. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Has that changed at all?
And it really hasn't, because, when you take a look at, you need a couple of things, and you know this better than anybody, Judith. Let's call it, you're the queen of working at this. A lot of people have a very difficult time. They create a book, they print 100 books, and then they try and sell them, or they try and get them out there, or they send them to reviewers, which is always scary. And so they become by the fact that it's almost like a failure. Nobody wants it. I was thinking about this morning. How many ISBNs are put out there every year? 700,000? You get a lot of people that are putting a book out, and I think you know this. In a lot of ways, it takes a lot of hard work and a whole lot of luck to have somebody grab a hold of your book. So for the majority of people, you don't want them to think that they're going to print 10,000 books and hit the lottery because they're the next J.K. Rowling? And the answer to that is probably not. But for many of the customers that you've sent to me that I have that have done very well with books, the people worked hard at selling them. They had a platform. They were committed to sell those books. And guess what? We've reprinted, as you well know, some of the books 2 and 3 times.
Yeah, which is very fun. And and I should tell our listeners, we're not talking about printing 50 books at a time. We're talking about mega thousands at a time. But
Sure.
but the whole thing about this is we get behind, and everyone has to understand, and it's where I get my kick butt hat on, is that you got to have a plan, you got to be committed, and you got to get out and work your tush off. And there's a marketing to that. But when you're done authoring, your writing cap is off. It is frickin' off. You are now selling a product. That product has a name to it. It's called the book. And that you have to move that forward. So those are things that we're going to be talking about. I'm actually going to do the kickoff session on the Thursday morning on how to build the business plan and the platform before we go into our Eaglet, which are our newbie and our advanced sessions, to get into that. Because if they don't grasp, if authors do not grasp that this is a business, they're in deep doo-doo from the get-go. And they are going to stick into that, I'm selling 100 books during its lifetime category.
Well, I think, too, Judith, the ones that you send to me, you have, because we probably see, in the vicinity of 50 titles a week. And so, we deal with an awful lot of folks that are out there. And in your case, you've already vetted some of these people. So when it comes down to printing 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 books, they're ready. I mean, they've gone to the boot camp. They've done the exercises. They've raised the flag. And so, in your case, you've separated the people who are kind of thinking about it versus I really want to do this. And so,
okay, so hold that thought, Tom. We're going to go to a quick break. Here's one of the things I want to come back and talk about. I want to talk about pricing. So when you're talking about these short runs using the Inkjet, let's talk about pricing. This is Judith Briles. My guest is Tom Campbell, VP of King Printing. We're talking printing your book.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Is there a book in you or another? Author U will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at Author U and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Every picture tells a story. And it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, with me is Tom Campbell. He will be at the Author U Extravaganza. King Printing has always been one of our key exhibitors, and I love when I see a book. Sometimes I know a printer is the right fit. You just know it, but there also is something called a personality. And I like to work with printers that will take a vested interest to make sure that there is a right fit for the book. And one of the things I love about Tom Campbell, their offices, King Printing, is based in Massachusetts. I actually had a gig in Massachusetts, and we were down to the wire. And Tom personally delivered 2 cases of books, so I would have them for the crowd. Okay, so that's over and beyond and what I would expect from that, but that I think it's critical to have relationships with printers. It's just not doing another job. I kind of like to know who I can talk to, and they'll get back to me, and sometimes hold my hand. So Tom, let's talk about competition and what's competitive. When I go out for a client and I get 4 or 5 bids, printing bids, and some are just so way out of the spectrum, I know I'm going to throw it out. But usually the group comes in and we make a decision on what we want to do with that. And personalities are a factor. So what is competitive when we do a bidding, and what are the other ingredients that an author should look for when they go about securing someone to handle their book?
Well, and by the way, Judith, I'll be glad to. We'll bring you some more books if you come to Boston when you reprint the book that your Author U book. So not a problem, and it's always a pleasure to take you to the airport. I've never seen anybody quite packed like that in my life. This woman has a mobile 2-wheeler. She doesn't need any help at all.
Okay.
But anyway. The thing, and we've talked about this, many of the exhibitors that come to Author U and many of the fine printers across the country, everybody, you can't be everything to everybody. And so certain of the larger printers are, they print very long-run books and are cost competitive there, but maybe not so much when you're dealing with the independent publishers or smaller publishers. And so for your competitive pricing really relates to the quantity of books that you're going to print. And I think what you have to realistically do is say, I would like prices on 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000 books, or 500, And the majority of printers that I know and I'm familiar with, and we know them all pretty much because we all share information, is that the average you should be within 5 or 10% of each other, and that should really be, a competitive price on a book. But then, your readers and the people that are doing this need to think about something else. They need to think about, do they need help? Do they need strong customer service? Or are they people that have done many books and know how to do the files and know how to put it together and have a good feel for what the end result is? Because so many files today that are put together, somebody, as you well know, like Nick, who puts files together, he's got a strong understanding of what's going to happen when you take that electronic file and you put it to paper. He knows. And so many of the good designers today do have a strong understanding of what the end result is going to be before it's actually even printed. So the other thing that your folks need to understand is that they need to ask the question, is that printer doing the whole job himself? I often come out and say that there's, roughly 40 book printers left here in the U.S., but there are 5,000 people that claim to be. And so, you've got to ask the listener needs to say, when he contacts the book printer, he goes out for these bids, he or she, that they ask the questions. Do you print this yourself? Are you going to bind it yourself? Do you proof it yourself? Are all the steps completed in your facility? And if the answer is no, then they need to step back. And that's why you see some of these wild swings in bids, because a lot of printers have to go outside, do an outside bindery, and have it actually bound outside. And, that takes away it takes away the schedule. It takes, depending upon how busy that bindery is, the quality of the product that you're going to produce. So, if you want to compare apples to apples, make sure that whoever you're quoting is doing the whole job themselves. And that way you have a single point of liability if something happens. And you know what? Things do happen.
Absolutely, Tom. And I am extraordinarily biased in this arena that I want to keep everything underneath the roof and send it out. And I also know if they do have to outsource it, and outsource could be sending it across town. I'm not talking about sending it to India, but if they do have to outsource it, it not only does it add on more time, but the cost really does jack it up.
Yep, it really does. And, I think when you also talk, and I think some of us, whenever the client calls up, even you, Judith, when we did your book, you get a sense when, our customer service folks are talking to our clients or I'm talking to the client, you get a sense of, I think this person's going to need some help. I think this person, there was somebody that you sent to us, Judith, and I think you remember this. We did a children's book for her.
Mm-hmm.
And,
huge hand-holding.
Yeah, but you get a sense of yeah, but thank God she was in Brookline. She wasn't in the equator. But you get a sense. You have to care about these people. You've got to have a sense about them, and so you've got to tell them, here's what's going to happen. I don't think you may be happy with this result because, as you know, many illustrated books, the illustrator or the person that's created it has a scent. And, once you take that electronic file and you put it on print and you proof the job, the colors are going to change. And, everybody sees color differently. And you can either have a very good result or a very bad result, particularly with that client. So,
yeah,
and then again, it goes back to...
For everybody that we were talking about a children's book, and the client was not only the author, she was the illustrator, and she was very possessive of it. And one of the challenges, because Tom has really introduced something, and you need to understand this, that what you see on your color monitor on your computer may not be the true color. So it's really critical to understand that.
Right. Yeah, it really won't be. And and I will say that is, that's the litmus test for me when I'm talking to somebody, and we're doing either a children's book or any book with any color, if they are all of those three in one, that's when the alarm goes off with me. And I have to say that we need to make sure that we're spending the time to make sure that that client is going to be happy with the end result. Because creators, illustrators, all of the above, and being a first-timer or a newbie, that's when, the hair stands up in the back of my neck. And I start asking questions.
Right. And so if you're dealing with, and I think he's already mentioned Nick Zellinger, which is one of the sponsors of Author U, Your Guide to Book Publishing. And Nick also will be at the extravaganza this year for designing, and he'll be doing a little talk on 10 nuggets for newbies on Thursday the 1st. But one of the things that happens with this whole arena is that you really don't go to someone just because they had the lowest price, because that may be a mistake. And that I recently had a client that I went out and did the usual. We got multiple bids. He made a decision, although he had been with a printer and he had actually been very happy with them. They did a nice quality book. He did very, very well with it, but he decided to try something different, and he went with something else. And if Murphy's Law was in play, it was in play. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that he had not gone back to the printer firsthand, who I recommended. He started, and it was a disaster. And this is someone who doesn't print 1,000 books or 2,000. He never goes less than 5,000 because he has such a mass audience. And he did a 7,000 book run, and it was a disaster from the get-go. And that relationships are important. People who get you, who understand you, who know what the quality is you're doing. And so when we go back to the example, before we go to the break here shortly, with the example of the children's book, I knew that Tom would be the perfect handholder for this client. And he probably wanted to bop me on the head because it did take a lot of more work. But it's critical. It is absolutely critical to understand that there are some printers that absolutely are the cat's meow for your project, where another printer may not be the totally 100% fit. And that person, and there are times where I've wanted Tom to do a project and he maybe has been a little bit high. I go back and say, what can you do and how we can bring it down? So let's talk about that when we come back. This is Judith Briles. Tom Campbell of King Printing is my guest.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Tom Campbell, the VP of Sales with King Printing and Audiobooks, is my guest today. We are talking printing your book. And Tom mentioned that there are over 700 ISBNs being pulled down each year now for books. That doesn't include all the ones, which is the bulk, that get done without ISBNs, which separates immediately your level of seriousness, in my opinion. But we're talking about what's competitive book, how about going about pricing, and what are some of the services, or what should you be looking at when you select it. And there's something called split runs. So Tom, talk about split runs, what they are, how do you evaluate them, what's the cost factors in them?
Okay. With many of the books, and a lot of it occurs in the professional market, where the author or the folks that are going to sell the books haven't got a really good idea about, should they go soft cover or should they go case bound? And by the way, with all the technologies today, again, for the printer that has the capability, being able to do a split run, meaning you can do so many thousand soft covers and a couple hundred hard covers, case-bound books with dust jackets. What you want to do is many of the printers are going to use the common text, meaning that you're going to use the same ISBNs. You'll put them in the copyright page for both the soft cover and the hard cover. And then what happens is you can print, you'll save the money on the text, and it becomes a binding option for the printer. So they can divert a couple of hundred books over to the case bind side, and the rest of them can be soft cover. And so you end up improving your costs, obviously because you're printing more, but you're not printing separately for the case bound and separately for the soft cover. And what that does for many of the clients, and we've actually seen it where the soft cover didn't do so good, but the case bound did great because of the market that it was in. People saw it as a gift, or they saw it as the kind of book that they wanted to put up on their bookshelf. Whether they read it or not, I don't know. But we've seen it where you can test the market and not break the bank by doing a split run of soft covers and hard covers. It just kind of gives you that sense. And in some cases, for book signings or for special people, and we've started to see this in Kickstarter right now, where certain people want to do some case-bound books to give to their Kickstarter partners and as autographed books, and it was kind of like a thank you thing. So, it's an option for people, and certainly one that everybody should consider. And as you well know, Judith, the margins can be better on a case-bound book versus a softcover book.
Absolutely. Let me just add on this very quickly. For number one, if you don't know what a case-bound is, it's a hardback book, all right? And it'll have a dust jacket. So that means that you have what we lovingly say extra real estate which means your dust jacket flaps on that you can have more data to help sell your book, and actually a better profile for a bio on that back dust jacket cover that would help you out. The second thing is on the copyright page, that Tom is absolutely right, that you should be putting not only the ISBN for your paper if it's a softback, but you should also be putting in the ISBN for your ebook. And I know Amazon does not require them, but guess what? Some of the other platforms do have it. I'm going to recommend that you put an ISBN on your ebook, period. Third, even if you don't have a hardcover book or case bound, as Tom says, which is our print pro lingo, that it's why not go ahead and do that? Because he's right, you've got it all together. But here is the caveat. But if you do, make sure you have the right ISBN and the barcode on the back cover, because that's where you're going to need the variants here. So there is a change here. There's two different ones, and don't screw those up. You can't use the same ISBN for all your covers when you have different formats. So I did.
And by the way, as part of the process, when books come into us, that's a process that we have because we do so much work with many publishers, large publishers, small publishers. We check ISBNs. A lot of people, it's just one of those things that, can be, we know can be a problem with people. And so, our media department here and our customer service, our people, they'll take a look and they'll see if the barcode ISBN is correct for both binding styles, as well as making sure that the ISBN is correct even in the copyright page, because believe it or not, that is a problem. People get so excited.
I know.
And then they get the numbers reversed, or they get the wrong numbers, or they, those are key things, because there are fixes for that. But when you tell somebody that because of their mistake that you got to put a label on the back of the book, and it's not so much fun on a first book. So we spend a lot of time checking those little things to make sure that the end result is going to be good. And the other thing, Judith, I'm going to bring up to you is invariably people, when they get to the printing stage, they maybe have spent 2 years, 10 years, getting their book ready. And when they finally get their proof, they say, "Oh, everything is fine," and just go ahead and print it. And I've got to tell you that when you get your proof is the time that you really need to spend, or have somebody spend who has never seen this product before, and check for what I call the A problems. And A problems, you categorize them as A, B's, and C's. A's are the product doesn't ship, just like on a tablet or a computer or anything else. B's, you can fix it in the next reprint if you print it. C, nobody will ever know. But an A problem is, guess what? The title is spelled wrong. Guess what? You've spelled your name wrong. Or the title on the front of the book doesn't match the title on the spine. Or the person that you want to acknowledge as being your mentor, you get their name spelled wrong. These are the times that you really sit down, and I say to many clients, they say, "Well, I have a book signing, or I have this, or I have that." And I go, "You know what? This is the only chance that you get to make sure that it's right before we go to print." And if we print 1,000 or 1,500 and 2,000, and we've seen it, where somebody said, "We've checked it, they've signed off okay," and I've been told, "Oh, my lawyers checked it, or my legal assistants have checked it," and then when they got their books, and it's happened here in our conference room, the person said, "I can't believe it. My name is spelled wrong on the back of the book."
Yep, and that does happen.
It does happen.
It does happen. So your A problems is we got a screw up on the spine. We've got a deal on the front cover where a title or the author's name is and there's a mistake there. On the back cover, ditto here. So those are all critical things that people will see instantly, that you need to say, stop, stop the presses. We need to fix this baby. And by the way, we've had that happen before.
Yeah.
With authors, we've had to, oh my God, what did we do? What did we think? And then as Tom says, okay, so this is the next printing because, Tom, if they, in what we call the blue lines or the proofs, we used to call them blue lines because remember how they used to come in blue lines?
They did.
Years ago, that on the proofs that there is a cost. When you're into that stage of it, once your book has been uploaded to the printer and they're coming back to you, and by the way, the upload, they get back those proofs to you in a very quick period of time. You're talking about a few days at the most. That you really need to. I tell all authors, okay, you cancel whatever you're doing. You are going to sit down and read it actually out loud. Again, I know you're sick of it ad nauseum, but you're going to read it out loud to go through. And you're looking for those little hiccups. So you're looking for those B things. Okay, I can live with this and I can fix it next time. But I have to tell you, do not let errors stay in the first chapter. Why? Because most books get their slam down the first chapter. If it doesn't resonate, if it doesn't connect, if they see this thing loaded with errors, they're going to say, screw it, I'm out of here. So make sure that that's really good. But there's stuff that you can fix on the next printing, and there are other things that only you would notice and no one else. So, Tom, what's the cost of fixing in the proof stage on these changes?
Well, what we do today is we send, if we find problems and, the cost is going to be, we're going to send them back to the person that put the files together. So we'll send them back to someone like Nick and he can work out whatever changes because you remember there are many different platforms today. And so we don't want to really touch we're not going to touch the customer's files because, you can end up with even more problems. So we'll send them back. We'll reproof the job. There'll be a cost to it. It may be $60 or $80 to reproof it, depending upon, what type of a proof we're putting out there. So you're going to have that additional cost. And then we're going to ask you to do the same thing that you just brought up. You're going to look at it again. And, you're going to look at it. You're going to sign off on it. And then once you tell people, you really need to calm down. And oh, by the way, you can cancel your book event. Because
exactly. Okay, so let's come back to that because we're talking about RTP. I talked about rush to publish. We're talking about don't rush to print. That's always a deep boo-boo. All right, we're going to come back. Tom's got some key points, and we'll get into those final how to help a printer out.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Do you sell stuff? Do you want to sell books? Lots of them? If yes, you must take credit cards, the most widely used form of payment today. The Free Terminal has created a special program for your guide to book publishing listeners. No contract. All equipment is free. Extremely low rates and no termination fees ever. Contact Alan Dean at alan@thefreeterminal.com or call him at 303-668-6828. The Free Terminal has handled all credit card transactions for both Author You and Judith for over a year. Don't wait another day. Contact Alan at thefreeterminal.com or call 303-668-6828 and tell him you want the no contract Author You deal.
Shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the Book Shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the Book Shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
The way your book looks, it feels, it smells, I love the smell of a new book, is critical on that. And that visual presentation, and contrary to the belief of many, print is not disappearing. Interesting, earlier this month, I had a fabulous interview with Mark Coker, who will be at the Author U Extravaganza, and Mark is our opening speaker on Friday morning. And he said, there was this big hubbub belief that ebooks were going to take over the world, blah, blah, blah. And he said that's not happening. Even though there are far more printed books out there than ebooks, you all need to understand that. Are they complementary? Absolutely. Should you be doing them both? Absolutely. Absolutely. How you do them is always a case, and that you have to make those decisions. And one of the things is, we went to the last break, I popped out RTP. I always talk about rushing to publish, which authors do. They finally think, oh my God, I just got to get this thing out. That is always a mistake. Also, RTP, rushing to print. You've got to make sure you've had the right fit, the right relationship. Whether you can look it out, but you've got to make sure that it fits your book. And I know for the Author U book that we mentioned earlier, that just picked up its 5th book award, that I knew that Tom was going to be the right fit for it. And I actually didn't want to go overseas if I could, and avoid that, which is often cheaper. And it probably would have brought it into play, but the reality is I didn't want to wait another 3 months, so I needed it in hand. And after all, the Chinese were not going to deliver it to the hotel I needed it at. Tom did. So with that said, what are some of the things, Tom, that we can do, as I call HAPO, help a printer out? So when we go to how can we make it best to do it, you brought it up. One of the things is, it is the key that if an author loves a book, or if they want to see their book modeled after something book, what do you suggest they do?
Well, a lot of with some of the clients, they really don't understand the makeup of the book. They don't understand the natural paper versus white paper versus a gloss paper versus a matte paper. And so a lot of times when we talk to people, and this has been around for a long time, we say, go to the bookstore. Is there a book that you're modeling this after? And you'll find that many, many people do, when they create their book, will model it. And they'll model it after something. And so you can ask them and say, what's this book going to be about? And as you and I both know, I brought up a book that's been very successful for both of us is the iodine crisis, which is just taken off for whatever reason, and people have just gravitated to that book. But when somebody says to me, the iodine crisis, and I go, okay, and I'll go to, we'll go to Amazon. We'll take a look and see what that book is about. There's a lot of information in Amazon about the specifications of a book. In some cases, we've been known, if it was a larger run, then we might be familiar with the book enough. You can buy a used book, I hate to say that, on Amazon, but you can get your hands on it and get a feel for it. And with some people, when they start describing things that I'm just not familiar with, or we're not familiar with here as a company, then we want to get our hands on something that's going to be similar. So when we quote it, we don't want to quote 15 different options, because then it gets very confusing. And it's a tremendous amount of resources to do that many quotes. So what we want to get people to do is hone in, become educated. And, oh, by the way, when you go out and you start quoting, all printers are not created equal. And so some printers I've seen some printers print some things this way. And if you find that you've got a 20-30% spread, there's a reason. There's a spec issue. There's something that's not quite right. And so, you want to be educated about, number one, what your book is going to consist of, not only what the content is, but the kind of paper, the kind of cover, the kind of lamination that you're going to have on it. All of those things become critical to getting the best price. And like I said to you earlier, I said everybody should probably be within a reasonable range of each other. But if you've got big spreads and a quote, then there is a problem.
To look at it. So one of the other things I'm going to brought up, because Tom was talking about the proofing and the cost, and one of the things that I saw that really was, and I really didn't fully tune into, but I really got it in my radar at this point, is that when you are in the proof stage and you see some of those, oh my gods, the cover stuff we have to absolutely change in a nanosecond. But maybe there's something internally and that you see. And I remember one time I was reading along and I thought it was one of kind of my, oh my God, internal, and it said plane, as in airplane, when it should have said plan. Did I need to change that? Yeah, I did. That was not something that nobody would notice, and I didn't want to wait. So, but the cost of me making that one-page change was $25. One page. One of the advantages I heard Tom say was that they just charge $60 roughly, anywhere from 60 to 80, depending on the type of book, size of book, is to just create a whole entire new proof. So if you have other changes, those internal changes, because most printers do charge by the page for each change, and that change really does incorporate usually a substitute PDF for that page, because everything gets uploaded by the interior, at least what you do from the interior designer to the specific printer. So that could be, if you have 10 changes, my God, $250 versus $60 becomes a happy dance in your budget. So,
yeah, and you're going to go back to Nick, and you're going to have him make those 10 changes. Mm-hmm. And, with all the different platforms and all the different software today, you want to avoid, Judith, and you know this term well, widows and orphans. And
oh, yes. Yeah, that's one of my bugaboos. Yeah, for our listeners, a widow and orphan are those dangling words that all of a sudden there is one word on a line, or there is one line that is at the very end of the page and it's just hanging all by itself or at the top of the page. A good designer is going to make sure that doesn't happen. They look for that. And the other thing is that I am known, when I'm doing my side of the proofing on that side, I'm known as the Hyphen Nazi, because I have a certain rule that I don't want to see so many hyphens on a page. I have seen pages where there is hyphen after hyphen after hyphen after hyphen. That is an ugly layout to me, and the interior designer needs to be kicked in the butt. But that's my opinion.
No, and you're right. And I think the other part of it, too, is that everybody that comes in, whether we do 15, 20, 30 titles, whatever it is, and I got to tell you, Judith, just like you, every single one of these people is a new entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. They are about to embark. Whether it's they're about to become Bill Gates in a garage. They've got and I let me tell you, you and I both know this. We've always been amazed at the success of certain people with certain books, and they started off and maybe they printed 500 of them, and all of a sudden it took off. And then, and in some cases, publishers snatched them up. In other cases, they made a heck of a living on it because it was a side product that they sold as part of their pitch.
Right. And we've had many authors who have been approached by publishers, mainstream publishers, who have actually said, you know what, you're kind of crazy to go with this. You're making so much more money. All right, Tom, we have a quick wrap up here. So first of all, how do they find you at King Printing?
Okay, the easiest way to find me at King Printing, our phone number is 978-458-2345. Our websites are kingprinting.com and Adi Books, that's ADI Books.com. And, you can also find us in just about every single, you can find us in Judith's website at AuthorU. You can find us at Parapublishing with Dan Pointer. You can find us at John Kremer. I mean, we're pretty well known, but the best thing to do, and also my email address is campbellt@kingprinting.com, and we'll be glad to take care of you. We've got, in my opinion, the best group of customer service people who have the experience that can help you get the job done.
Great. All right. So in wrapping up, Tom will be at the AuthorU Extravaganza. He has a lot of goodies that he gives away, information that you want to come along, gives you a chance to really take your manuscript or take your book along that you have and just say, what can you do, and show it, which is what I have my authors do all the time. So AuthorU.org is where all the information is. If you click on the resources, you'll find him under Associate Partners, details there. I'm Judith Briles. Thank you, Tom Campbell. We'll see you in a few weeks.
All right, Judith, thank you so much, and you have a great day, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.